The first thing I saw when I woke up wasn't my family. It was a note. 5 words in my father's handwriting: "We stopped paying. Good luck." 3 months. I'd been in a coma for 3 months, and this is what I woke up to. An empty hospital room and a goodbye letter, like I was some failed business venture he was cutting loose. I'm Nina Morrison. Or at least, I was. The girl who spent 15 years building a tech company from the shadows while my brother took credit for everything I created. The daughter who worked out of a converted storage closet while Spencer had the corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows. But lying in that hospital bed, ribs screaming with every breath, I realized something. My father had just made the biggest mistake of his life. Let me back up. 3 months earlier, I was driving home late from the office. Nothing unusual, I was always the last one there. That night, I'd been finishing a defense contract proposal that would be worth millions to the company. Spencer would present it, of course. He always did. And I'd watch from the back of the room, like always, invisible. I don't remember the accident itself. Just the headlights coming at me from the wrong side of the road, way too fast. Then nothing. When I woke up, the nurse told me I'd been critical for weeks. "Touch and go," she said. But I pulled through. "Your father visited once," she mentioned quietly, adjusting my for. "About 2 weeks ago. Stayed for maybe 10 minutes. 10 minutes. In 3 months. I wanted to be surprised, but I wasn't. This was Gregory Morrison we're talking about. The man who remarried 6 months after my mother died, brought Isabel into our lives like she'd always belonged there, and slowly let her reshape everything Mom had built. My mother, Catherine Lawson. God, I missed her. She died when I was 18, and everything changed after that. She'd been the heart of the company, the actual brains behind the tech we developed. Everyone knew it too. But she was quiet about it, never needed the spotlight. She just wanted to build something meaningful. I remember the last real conversation we had. She was in her study, surrounded by papers and her laptop, working even though the chemo made her exhausted. I brought her tea and she looked up at me with this expression I couldn't read at the time. "Nina," she said, "promise me something. Don't let them make you small." I didn't understand what she meant then. I thought she was talking about life in general, about being a woman in tech, about confidence. I didn't know she was talking about them. About what was coming. After she was gone, my father let Isabel take over her role, both at home and at work. Isabel, who had a business degree and zero understanding of actual technology. Isabel, who looked at me like I was a stain on expensive furniture. The shift was gradual at first. My office got moved during a reorganization. My name stopped appearing on project emails. Meetings I used to attend somehow happened without me. And Spencer. My older brother learned fast that taking credit was easier than doing the work. So that's what he did. Took my designs, my code, my strategies, and presented them as his own, collaborative family effort. The worst part wasn't even the stealing. It was how easy it was for everyone to believe him. Of course Spencer created that brilliant algorithm. Of course he came up with that security protocol. Look at him, confident, charismatic, everything a tech innovator should be. Me. I was just the quiet girl who kept the servers running. I told myself it didn't matter. As long as the work was good. As long as someone, somewhere, knew the truth. But here's the thing about truth. It doesn't matter if nobody's listening. I stared at that note for probably an hour. The beeping machines, the sterile smell, the weight of those 5 words. We stopped paying. Good luck. My chest hurt, and not just from the broken ribs. It was this hollow, crushing feeling that started in my sternum and radiated outward. Like my whole body was finally catching up to what my brain already knew. They didn't want me anymore. Maybe they never did. That's when I started crying. Not the dramatic kind, just quiet tears running down my face because I was too tired to sob. Too broken to make noise. The nurse came in eventually. Young woman, kind eyes. She saw the note in my hand and her expression shifted. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "That's not right." Those 3 words from a stranger meant more than anything my family had said to me in years. I thought that was it. That I'd wake up, drag myself out of this hospital somehow, and just disappear. Maybe that's what they wanted. Maybe that's what I deserved for being stupid enough to think family meant something. Then the door opened. I looked up, and for one stupid second, I thought maybe it was Dad. Maybe he'd come back. Maybe. Nina. It was Alexander Reed, my mother's lawyer. The man who'd handled her estate, who'd sat across from me at the reading of her will years ago with this sad, knowing look in his eyes. Behind him was someone I didn't recognize. Tall guy, sharp suit, the kind of person who looks like they're calculating everything before they speak. Alexander pulled a chair next to my bed, and I saw something in his expression I hadn't seen in years. Anger. Real, barely controlled anger. "I'm glad you're awake," he said. "We've been waiting." Waiting for what? My voice came out scratchy, weak. The stranger stepped forward. "I'm Benjamin Cross. I've been reviewing your work history with the company and your mother's estate documents. We need to talk about what happens next." I didn't understand. What happens next is I figure out how to pay for this hospital room and find somewhere to live. Alexander and Benjamin exchanged a look. "Nina," Alexander said slowly, "your father filed legal documents declaring you mentally incompetent. Permanent incapacitation. He signed them yesterday." The room tilted. "He's planning to announce a complete company restructuring at the Tech Summit in San Francisco," Benjamin continued. 3 days from now. "As of this morning, he intends to remove you from all records of strategic contribution and formalize Spencer as sole innovator and heir." "I don't have anything to be removed from," I said bitterly. "I've never had credit for anything." "Exactly," Benjamin said. "That's the point. They've been erasing your footprint for years. Your accident just gave them the perfect opportunity to finish the job." Alexander reached into his briefcase and pulled out a folder. His hands were steady, but I could see the tension in his jaw. "Your father made a mistake, Nina. A big one." He opened the folder and turned it toward me. Inside were documents, old ones, in my mother's handwriting. "Your mother knew," Alexander said quietly. "She saw what was happening even before she got sick. She saw how Isabel was positioning Spencer, how your father was letting it happen. So she created something your father never knew about. A trust," Benjamin said, "tied to very specific conditions." I stared at the papers, my mother's signature at the bottom. My vision blurred again, but not from tears this time. "What kind of conditions?" Alexander's voice was careful, deliberate. "If your father ever withdrew support, financial, medical, or otherwise, while you were unable to advocate for yourself, every asset your mother controlled would transfer directly to you. Full control. No contestation." My heart was pounding now, fighting against the pain in my ribs. "Your father signed the refusal of medical responsibility 2 weeks ago," Benjamin said. "We have documentation. We have the note he left. That alone satisfies the condition." "What assets?" I whispered. Benjamin didn't hesitate. "Nearly $1 billion in combined holdings. Plus voting control of your mother's shares in the company." The machines around me seemed louder suddenly. Beeping faster. "Your mother was the majority owner, Nina," Alexander said. "She held 51%. Your father never had full control. He just acted like it after she died because nobody challenged him." I couldn't breathe right. "Why didn't you tell me this before?" "Because the trust couldn't activate until the conditions were met," Alexander explained. "Your mother designed it that way intentionally. She wanted to make sure that if you ever needed it, it would be unbreakable." Benjamin leaned against the wall. "Here's the problem. A trust doesn't wipe away perception. The board still thinks you're the girl in the storage office doing back-end work nobody sees. They won't accept your authority on trust documents alone. You need proof. You need leverage. And you need to move fast," Alexander added. "If your father announces that restructuring at the summit, undoing it becomes exponentially harder." "I can't even walk across this room," I said. "You don't need to walk," Benjamin replied. "Not yet. You just need access." He reached into his jacket and placed something on my bed. A security badge. My photo, my name, and an authorization level I'd never seen before. "Your mother had this made years ago," Alexander said softly. "She wanted you to have full access when the time came." I picked up the badge with shaking hands. The weight of it felt impossible. "We have 72 hours, Benjamin said. "We need to collect everything, every piece of work you've done, every project Spencer claimed, every strategy you built. We need documentation, metadata, timestamps, everything. Then what? Alexander's expression hardened. Then you show up at that summit and take back what's yours. The next 3 days were the most intense of my life. They moved me to a suite in San Francisco. Alexander arranged everything. Medical equipment, a private nurse, security. Benjamin set up computers and servers, turning the living room into a war room. And we worked. God, we worked. Every project I'd ever touched, we documented it. Every late night in that storage closet, every weekend I'd spent coding while Spencer was in Aspen or the Hamptons, every strategy session where I'd been in the room but not at the table, we found proof. Payment records with my employee ID. Draft documents with my metadata embedded in the files. Task logs showing I'd completed workflows that Spencer presented to the board. Strategy models that matched my original structures down to the formatting. The hardest part wasn't finding the evidence. It was reliving it. Every file I opened was a reminder of how invisible I'd been. Project names I'd created, turned into Spencer's victories. Presentations I'd written, delivered under his name. Innovations I'd designed, credited to team collaboration, which meant him. There was this one moment, around midnight on the second day, when I found an email thread from 4 years ago. Spencer had sent a strategy proposal to the board, my strategy, word for word, and my father had responded, "Excellent work, son. This is exactly the kind of forward thinking this company needs." I'd been CC'd on the email. Like I was just another employee being informed of the decision. I stared at that email for a long time. "You okay?" Benjamin asked, looking up from his laptop. "Yeah," I said. But I wasn't. I was furious. Benjamin came over, read the email over my shoulder. He didn't say anything for a minute, then, "Save it. We're going to need it." By the third day, we had everything organized. Timelines, evidence chains, witness statements from colleagues who'd worked with me directly. It was airtight. But I was exhausted. My body was screaming at me to rest, to give up, to let someone else handle this. "Take a break," Alexander said that afternoon. "You need to save your strength for tomorrow." I nodded, but I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the summit, about standing in front of all those people, about facing my father. What if they didn't believe me? What if the evidence wasn't enough? What if I got up there and froze? Around 3 a.m., I found myself looking through old photos on my laptop. Pictures from before Mom died. There was one of her and me at the office. I was maybe 16, visiting her at work during summer break. She had her arm around me, and we were both smiling at something off camera. I remembered that day. She'd been showing me the new security system she'd designed, explaining how the encryption worked. I'd barely understood half of it, but I'd been so proud of her. "You're going to do amazing things, Nina," she'd said. "Don't ever let anyone convince you otherwise." I closed the laptop and wiped my eyes. Alexander made calls, discreet ones. Board members who'd worked with my mother, executives who remembered her, people who'd always wondered why the company's innovation died with Catherine Lawson. Some of them were skeptical. Some of them were interested. But all of them agreed to be at the summit. On the second night, something happened that I didn't expect. There was a knock on the suite door. Alexander answered it, and I heard a man's voice, older, careful. "I need to speak with Nina Morrison." Alexander brought him in. He was tall, maybe 60, wearing a security uniform. His badge said Raymond Torres, Summit Head of Security. "Miss Morrison," he said, "I don't have much time, but I needed to give you something." He handed me a small notebook. Worn, pages dog-eared and covered in handwriting. "I've worked building security for 15 years, Raymond said. I do nights mostly. And for years, I saw you. Coming in late, leaving early, always alone. I kept notes because someone should have." I opened the notebook. Dates, times, room numbers. Observations written in neat, precise script. January 15th, N. Morrison in server room, 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. S. Morrison entered at 3:45 a.m., left at 4:15 a.m. with briefcase. March 22nd, N. Morrison working weekend. S. Morrison posted photos from Aspen on social media same weekend he claimed to complete defense contract proposal. Page after page. Years of documentation. My throat got tight. Why would you do this? Raymond's expression softened. Because I watched them steal from you. And because my wife works in your R&D department. She always said the company only holds together because of your work. He paused. Make them listen, Miss Morrison. Some of us always knew. After he left, I sat there holding that notebook like it was made of gold. See? Benjamin said quietly. You were never invisible. You just weren't looking in the right places. That night, I couldn't sleep. My ribs hurt, my head hurt, everything hurt. But more than that, I kept thinking about my mother. About those late nights in her study. About the way she'd look at me sometimes, like she was trying to memorize my face. About the sealed envelopes Alexander had mentioned at her funeral, things she'd prepared in case something happened to her. She'd known. She'd known exactly what would happen after she was gone, and she'd tried to protect me. I just wished she was here to see this. The morning of the summit, I could barely stand. The doctor said I was pushing too hard, that I needed more time to recover. I didn't have more time. Alexander helped me get dressed, professional but understated. Dark suit, minimal jewelry. My mother's watch on my wrist. In the mirror, I looked like her. Same dark hair, same sharp features. For years, I'd hated that resemblance because I knew it's why Isabel treated me the way she did. I was a constant reminder of the woman my father had actually loved. But today, I was glad. Today, I wanted them to see her in me. You ready? Alexander asked. I looked at myself in the mirror. Pale, thinner than before the accident, dark circles under my eyes. But something else too. Something sharp. Yeah, I said. I'm ready. The summit was being held at a massive hotel downtown. Tech executives, journalists, investors, everyone who mattered in our industry. My father's big moment. His chance to reshape the company in his image and finally erase every trace of my mother's influence. We entered through a side entrance. Alexander and Benjamin flanked me like bodyguards, which honestly wasn't far from the truth. The lobby was packed. I recognized faces, people I'd worked with for years who'd never acknowledged my existence. Analysts who'd praised Spencer's innovative designs that were actually mine. Board members who'd voted on strategies I'd created. None of them looked at me. But this time, I didn't care. Let them ignore me. In 30 minutes, they'd never be able to ignore me again. We were heading toward the main conference hall when Raymond appeared, nodding once at Alexander. Everything was in place. I could hear my father's voice before I saw him. That commanding tone he used for presentations, warm and confident and completely artificial. Excited to share the future direction of our company. A direction focused on fresh leadership and bold innovation. The hall was enormous. At least 300 people. My father stood on a raised stage under bright lights, looking every bit the successful CEO. Isabel sat in the front row, poised and perfect. And there was Spencer, standing near the podium in an expensive suit, ready to accept whatever title Dad was about to give him. I waited in the wings, heart hammering. Alexander touched my shoulder. Last chance to back out. I looked at him. I'm not backing out. Good, he said. And he almost smiled. And now, the announcer said, please welcome our keynote speaker, Gregory Morrison, CEO of Lawson Technologies. Applause filled the room. My father stepped forward, smiling. This was his kingdom. His moment. I walked onto the stage. The reaction was immediate. Gasps rippled through the crowd like a wave. My father's smile froze mid-expression. Isabel's hand flew to her chest. Spencer went white. What? My father started, but his voice cracked through the microphone. What are you doing here? I reached for the second microphone on the podium. My hands were steady. Good morning, I said. This is inappropriate, Dad hissed, trying to keep his voice low. You're not well. You need to leave. No, I said calmly, projecting across the hall. What's inappropriate is declaring your daughter mentally incompetent while she's unconscious in a hospital bed. What's inappropriate is abandoning her to die so you can erase her from the company she helped build. Murmurs erupted throughout the audience. I pulled the note from my jacket pocket and held it up. He left this beside my bed. 5 words. We stopped paying. Good luck. I placed it on the podium. And that, I continued, activated my mother's trust. Alexander stepped forward with the documents. Benjamin cued the presentation system, and the screen behind us lit up. The first slide showed the company's incorporation papers. Catherine Lawson, majority owner, 51%. The second slide displayed the trust clause in my mother's own handwriting. The third slide showed work logs, my employee ID connected to every major project for the past 15 years. That information is private, my father shouted. No, I said. It's true. I opened Raymond's notebook. This is a record kept by someone with no stake in this fight. Someone who saw everything you tried to erase. I read from it. Dates, times, evidence. The room was dead silent now. Then I looked up, directly at Spencer. Tell them about the defense contract, I said. The one you presented 3 months ago. The one worth $8 million. Spencer's face went red. That was a team effort. I wrote every word of that proposal, I said. While you were in Aspen. Raymond's notes confirm it. My employee access logs confirm it. The metadata in the original files confirms it. Benjamin advanced the presentation. Email threads appeared on screen. Timestamps. File histories. Everything laid bare. I turned to my father. You forgot who I really am, I said quietly. And what my mother left me capable of. For a second, something flickered in his eyes. Recognition maybe. Or regret. But it was gone as fast as it came. A board member I recognized, Sophie Patterson, one of Mom's old colleagues, stood up. I moved for an immediate vote of no confidence in Gregory Morrison's leadership. Hands went up across the room. Dozens of them. My father tried to speak, but his microphone had been cut. He looked around wildly, realizing he'd lost control. It was over in less than 5 minutes. My father stood there, frozen, as the board stripped him of authority. Isabel's perfect composure cracked. I saw actual panic flash across her face. Spencer looked like he might throw up. I stepped back from the microphone as the room erupted in discussion. Alexander touched my arm. You okay? I nodded. Yeah. I'm okay. For the first time in 15 years, I actually was. The aftermath was brutal but efficient. The board called an emergency session that afternoon. They voted to remove Gregory, Isabel, and Spencer from all positions of authority. Dad was offered a consultant role with no decision-making power, basically a pension with an office. He took it because his alternative was nothing. Spencer got reassigned to junior analytics. Entry level. The same position I'd started in 15 years ago. Maybe he'd learn what real work felt like. Probably not, but maybe. Isabel left the company entirely. Turns out when you have no actual skills and everyone hates you, there's not much left to offer. They offered me my mother's seat. CEO. Full control. I didn't celebrate. I just accepted, the way she would have. Quiet. Certain. A week later, I made one last stop before going home. The hospital room where I'd woken up was empty now, cleaned and ready for the next patient. I stood by the window, looking out at Seattle's overcast sky. I did it, Mom, I whispered. I put us back where we belong. And for the first time since she died, I felt her there. Steady. Proud. In the weeks that followed, I learned something my father never understood. Silence isn't weakness. It's the space where truth gathers its strength. I didn't destroy my family. I just stopped letting them destroy me. And when the dust settled, what remained wasn't revenge. It was restoration. My mother's legacy stood exactly where she intended it to be. Thanks for listening, and if you like this story, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to comment and subscribe for more stories about reclaiming what's rightfully yours and finding strength in the darkest moments. Sometimes the people who underestimate you the most are the ones who give you the greatest opportunity to prove them wrong.